Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we tried to take into account the inventory item subscriber town services, this little doohickey, um, with the subscriber buffs plugin. And if you were missing that item, we wanted to trip the you need to talk to window screen. However, since last week, I realized there's a major flaw in how I wrote the first attempt to do so, and today we're going to go over what the problem is and then try to fix it. So, as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions about LOTRO in general or plugins in specific. Alright, so what is the problem? So the problem is that the way I was developing the plugin, the way I was testing the plugin, hang on. Let's fix my the size of my windows here a little bit. Okay, the way I was testing this was I was unloading the plugin and then loading the plugin. Great, everything's great. The problem is when the plugins load, when you first log in, your inventory isn't actually available. And if your plugin is fast enough, it sees nothing in your inventory, and then it sees stuff start to be added to your inventory. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and log off and then log back in, and we'll see that. And I think I've still got some test code in here where if something goes into my inventory, we see a little message. Yep, item added. So what I was seeing was I would log in, and then I would see item added messages after my plugin was loaded. Now we're not going to see a lot of those because right now there's only one item in my inventory, but let's see how this works. The reason I'm logged into this level 7 character is I needed a character who had a VIP, a subscriber town services item that I wasn't afraid to throw away in order to provoke this behavior for real once we've resolved the false positives. So, what I was seeing, and we'll see if we're able to trigger it on such a introductory character. Oh, I added some code to try to fix it. I don't think the code works either, but it does suppress the problem. So we're going to go ahead and find where this was in code. In fact, how much of this got committed? Almost anything? Added check frame rate. Great. We're going to stash testing stuff. We're going to stash that away. And we'll do this one more time. So what I wanted to demonstrate, and I forgot to stash the changes I've made since then away, is that when we log in, we get the it's time to talk to window, even though it's not. And the cause of that window was that we were looking for the item in the inventory and failing to find it because the inventory hadn't been populated yet. And so being like, oh, I guess it's not there. There we go. It is time to talk to Wenda. So, it is not time to talk to Wenda. We have 1 day and 2 hours left on our time here. And it should only ding us at 1 day. What failed was this, but we don't know what failed. Let's go ahead and add in some of that debug text that I just removed. Okay, so testing stuff, changes. Let's go ahead and get the seconds. That's line 101, give or take, of main. It's definitely not 101. And we're going to go ahead and pull in this. And I had some other stuff that I was adding. And we'll come back to that. Okay, I was actually adding it for something else. So, if we load this up, we don't see any problem. And I'll log back out and log back in with that debug code in there just to show that this is provoked. Okay, we're going to log in. Now, one of the benefits to only having a single plugin that is loading, only a single plugin that LOTRO knows about at all, is that we don't have to worry about a race condition where if 5 other plugins get loaded and then ours gets loaded, maybe that was enough time for the inventory to resolve itself. So we can see that we hit the does backpack contain subscriber town services? No issue. And so I was hoping to do all this in 2 parts, handle subscriber buffs and also check that here. But I think the reality is we need to do something a little bit different. We need to be willing to check the effect and in parallel do something about the backpack. And so what I think we can do is, first of all, I'm curious, what's the state of the backpack when we're hitting this problem? So let's go ahead and turbine.shell.writeline. I can probably just debug. Checking backpack size, and then that's backpack get size. Awesome. Little Redhead has reported that Delirian, I've taken my Holberton Elder to the Shire, and she's defeating wolves. If you get Slayer credit for that sounds like it'd be great to just go over to the place with those sickle flies and just knock out a couple of quick deeds. Oh, what is the name of that? This character has discovered nothing, but it's this hill southwest of Frogmorton. I miss being on my completionist character when I'm not, but I'm definitely not throwing away my perma vault that I have over here on this character, which has 1 day and 2 hours left on it. So when we get around to throwing it away to test this solution, it'll be fine. Okay, so I wanted to know the size of the backpack, and you know what? Yeah, that's fine. And what I'm guessing we're going to find out is that there's nothing in there. Otherwise, we would find it. So what I also want to do is get a... Let's see. Let's register for... Now, that's equipment changes. Where else? We have effect added. I know I wrote code at some point to check for changes in the backpack. And I would like to... No, remember where I did that. Aha, okay. It was just this. We're going to hoist that up into here for testing purposes, which is just, I think we already have a local player. Yep. We're going to set a callback function. We're going to set a callback function on local player's get backpack for the item added, and we're just going to spit out that something was added. And tell you what, let's go ahead and dump out args. Okay. Now we can do a quick little test that that is working without having to log out and log back in. So we're going to go ahead and load subscriber buffs. Check in backpack of size 135. Okay. And that's not my vault. Don't know what I was expecting to work there. Okay. Item added. We can see this is item index 92. Okay. And so if I were to local player get backpack get item args dot index get name. Okay, let's take a look at that. So we can see 20% mount speed. And let's go ahead and item added to index. And we'll go ahead and say args.index and get rid of the rest of the dump that doesn't really have stuff that we care about. So item added to 68 reputation acceleration tone. Perfect. So Little Redhead says, I'll have to try this with my low level characters. Delirian, again with that Hubbleton guard. Delirian says, if I recall, the guard will cap at level 15 and will not be higher than the character. But I do have the guard defeat bears in Erdthorn. Okay, excellent. Let's go ahead and log out of Window, and then log back into Window, and then we'll see. Window will receive the message that it's time to talk to Window. Hi, little one. Okay. What I'm expecting is that the inventory size will still be 135, and then we will see items start populating in after we've done the check. Okay, and Delirian says you have to remember to port. Stablemaster will despawn your guard. Okay, so checking backpack of size 135. Correct. We didn't find it, and then item added to index 61 subscriber town services. What's up, little one? I know. She's not giving you any attention. It's very sad. Oh, she's not giving you food? That's more sad. Okay. So, what we need to do for the checking is we need to delay deciding whether or not the inventory has this item in some fashion. Now, the simplest thing to do is just start a 5-second timer, 10-second timer, and then assume, okay, we probably have it by now. But I think we can be a little bit more generous and say, okay, if we don't find it when we first scan, which we should expect not to in this situation, then we can monitor the item added callback. And we can expect that these are going to happen pretty rapidly, one after the other. So, this is added, and this is added, and this is added, and this is added. We can expect to see that come in, but we don't even have to expect it. Let's go demonstrate it. I'm going to log off and log back in once more. We have timestamps enabled, and I'm guessing all of these are going to come in with essentially the same seconds in the timestamp. So let's do that. There's a stream command for streamers died X number of times. We need a separate command for this stream for streamer has logged out and back in this number of times. Might be able to set a record. Okay, it's time to talk to Window. So what we saw is that at 26 seconds, all of this happened. And I don't think that's indicative that it actually was at 20 seconds. I think that's the time at which things started getting added to this chat, and there was a bit of a backlog, and we worked our way through it. So we entered all the channels, my plugin started doing stuff, it failed to find something in the inventory, then each of these items got added back in. And I don't know if these indexes mean anything, other than if you go to that same index and say, hey, what is here, you're going to find something. Now, if you move something, I wonder if it's in the same index. Don't know, that's outside the scope of today, but there's so much about the backpack system that I don't know yet. So we're learning together. Okay, so what we could do is say, just wait 5 seconds and it's probably going to be fine. Maybe. Or wait until the first thing is added and then start a 1 to 5 second timer. And then each time something's added to the backpack, just restart that timer. And then if the timer expires, then go ahead and check again and see if you found the thing that you're looking for. And if we start that timer when the plugin first loads, we're guaranteed that however many seconds later, call it 5 seconds, we'll do the check. So we don't have to do the initial check if we don't want to. And I think doing the initial check is kind of silly because the whole point of this plugin is to load when you log in. So we should expect that it will not see the proper state of your inventory at first. But after we've hit a bunch of item loaded, then the timer will be reset. And then a few seconds later, it'll be like, oh, okay, I think we're done. And it might even be simple enough to do like a 2-second timer. Now, we could invent a timer from scratch, absolutely. But it might be helpful to just go and borrow another timer. So let's go borrow another timer. And then decide if we want to use it or not. So what we're going to do is we're going to use LOTRO Plugin Compendium to download a Minstrel Buff 2. And then we're going to compare, well, we're going to look at how it does timers. So this is going to be in Documents, the Lord of the Rings Online, in Plugins, Cube Plugins, that's me, Minstrel Buff 2, and come on down to Timer Control. And I'm just going to open it up here in our Visual Studio Code window. Oh, Little Redhead says, oh hey, remember to open your delving chests. Well, 2 notes on that. A, I've logged out, so it's too late. But B, thank you very much. I did actually remember to open them before I logged out. I appreciate you double checking though. It's the darndest thing. And unfortunately, a plugin could help with that, in that a plugin could, pop up and say, remember to open your delving, your reward. In fact, that could be another one of these super simple things that's just like, if you have a reward sitting in your inventory for more than 10 seconds, it says, don't forget to open your thing. Anyway, so we have a timer control. Awesome. We're doing it as a class. We don't have to, and that means that you need to bundle in the class definition also. And class also has us bringing in control, I think. Let's see. No, type. Type.lua and class.lua get pulled in from the turbine things. It's fine. This is meant to be a super lightweight thing, though, so we might make some modifications here. So we have a timer control, and oh, this is an actual timer control. No wonder I was doing class-based stuff. Yes, this isn't what I meant then. What was I using timers? What timer was I thinking? Maybe it was D-Tracker. Could be. Let's download all of my plugins. I was mentioning it to someone recently, and so I know it's in here somewhere. Timer, there we go. Okay, so this is also done as a class, but it's a much simpler thing, and I think we'll be able to wind back the class stuff pretty easily. And I think this was inspired by Garen or Galahad or someone. Like, I'm not the source of the ideas here for the most part. Anyway, so we try to construct with how long of a timeout. Does it repeat itself and just keep on resetting itself and refiring after every interval? Or is it a one-time thing? And when it is done, what function does it call? Cool. Then when you hit start, it figures out what the current game time is, and then knows what time the end time it's looking for is, and says it wants updates. That is every frame we're going to be doing this. And I wish there was a better way to go to the game and say, only come back to me after so long. But this is the way to do this kind of thing. So we get the time. We say, is the current time after or equal to the expected end time? And then if so, we either are just going to stop, which is turning off updates, or start, which is recalculating when the next end time is, and making sure we're still looking for updates. And either way, calling that callback. So awesome. That is overkill for what we're trying to do today. So we're going to go ahead and do timer.lua. And this is a class-free variant of the timer in the tracker. Okay, so what we want to do is function make timer, and we're going to go ahead and do something very similar. So instead of doing that, local timer equals turbine.ui.control. Great. And then anywhere we have self, we can just go ahead and set those things. And I don't care about that right now. Okay, and we're going to get rid of that. So we're just going to go ahead and convert all these things, stop timer, and now the last thing is we need to have the update function set up. So we call timer, and we need timer.update equals function sender args to call update timer end. Something like that. Return timer. Okay, so we can demonstrate that this works, because it's always good to make sure that things are working before you start using them. And we're going to go into import and do all of this, except that is timer. Yeah. And then we're going to go ahead and backpack timer equals make timer. And we want the timeout to be, let's say, 1500 milliseconds. Auto repeat true, and callback equals function debug timer when elapsed. Sure. End. How do I do an inline function? We want a callback. Callback equals okay, I think I forgot the quotes there. There we go. So what we're going to see, if this works, is that every second and a half we're going to get a little ping from our timer saying, hey, checking. Gotta actually say start. Start. Start timer. Right, I did not do the class things. Maybe I should do the class things. Seems like overkill. Okay, that didn't work. Attempt to call start. Yeah, I probably missed something. Okay, stop timer. Well, first of all, we should go ahead and do that, and then attempt to call start a nil value. This is timer 39. Great. Yep. Start timer. Stop timer. Okay, that should be better. Let's try that. Okay, timer elapsed. Great. That seems about a second and a half. But we can go ahead and sort of test that by saying, okay, every half a second, 3 times as often. There we go. Okay, so we're getting things about twice a second there. Obviously, this can be very silly if you just make it like 1 millisecond. It'll just essentially be every frame that it can, or 10 seconds. And we should see this ping again at 29. Give or take. Okay, so timer works great for what we want it to do. So, obviously we need a better function to call when the backpack timer elapses. And let's say it's going to be about 2 seconds. We'll give it 2 seconds after the last thing was added, or an initial 2 seconds just for things to get added. What we want is this. So we're going to hoist that out, and this is handle subscriber buffs. Oh. Yeah. Function check for subscriber town services. And this normally the effect will be present for the same approximate duration. And anyway, just in case the player threw it away accidentally. Okay, so we're going to call this function here instead of timer elapsed. And what we want to do, last thing, is when something is added, we can either go ahead and say, how will we, yeah, we'll just stop. Okay. Let's come on up to where we're checking for this. And let's make another function. Function is backpack item subscriber town services. And what we're going to do is this. If item name equals that, then return true, return false. Now, we can simplify this down. Local is item so is subscriber town services equals that. Return is subscriber town services. That's probably fine. And we can go ahead and use this. Great. So that lets us use the same logic in both of these functions. Because we want to say local item equals local player get backpack, and actually the sender is probably the backpack because this is get backpack item added. So sender get backpack, well that is the backpack. Get item is going to be args index. And then local is item equals is backpack item return is item. Now, if is item, then we want to go ahead and do timer. We haven't created it yet. Backpack timer. Missed symbol end. I don't like that. Yep, that'll do it. So backpack timer, stop timer, backpack timer. Else, start timer, backpack timer. Restart, how much time is left on the timer? And there could be a restart function, but start just does that. It just says from now, start it. Okay. We found it. No need to look anymore. Okay, we could also get rid of the item added, right? Local player, get backpack, well, sender, dot, item added equals nil. Because we don't want to see this anymore. And we might be able to see that as well in our debug. Item added to index. Yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and get that up here. So if it is the item, then we're done and don't even care about backpack items anymore. If it's not, recheck or restart. Okay. So we got an error. Awesome. Line 91. Expected. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Oh. And in fact, we do not want it to repeat over and over now that we've got this defined. Okay. Okay, so we saw that that happened after about 2 seconds. Perfect. Load it again. 1, 2, bam. Second backpack size. So that's really promising. And then let's go ahead and log out window and see what's going on. Unfortunately, the subscriber time services is an expiring item, so there's no way to temporarily get it out of your inventory by putting it into your vault or shared storage or housing storage or whatnot, because those don't accept decaying items. Okay, we found that we did eventually find this. However, what we saw is it's the last one. And so we stopped looking after the last one, which is where you should stop looking, I guess. But we're going to go ahead and pull out a few more other things. Now we can see it's no longer paying attention to item added. That's good. Okay, so I have 15 different items here. Chances that subscriber town services is the last one has gone down tremendously. So let's try this again. X Anime in chat says, played this before, now my characters are gone, so start a new one. So your characters may be on one of the worlds that has closed down during a server consolidation. In the near future, quote unquote, with no specific date announced last I checked, but in the near future they are going to set up transfers from these so-called dark worlds to move those characters over to one of the active worlds. And the most recent server consolidation was to get everyone off of the 32-bit servers and onto 64-bit servers. So this was an end of August recent thing that just happened for a lot of us, which is why over on the other server I have 22 out of 22 character slots used, because I brought things in from 3 or 4 different servers onto one. So you're not alone. Obviously enjoy the game however you want to, but you will, if all goes according to plan, you should have access to those in the near future as they resolve some issues behind the scenes. Okay. I got checking backpack of size. And that 2-second delay was apparently enough to just resolve all the rest of the issues, which is fine. We talked about a multi-second delay. My concern is that there's a longer period in there. Like I'll often get like a 5 or a 10 second load time for plugins when I have diagnostics up. So let me go ahead and set this to 10 seconds. Local timer delay equals, and we'll just have an easier way to change that. Okay. Mel in chat says, I am living in the dark world waiting room currently also. Hello! Yes, hello! Yeah, they did some communication to the community, but apparently there was some behind-the-scenes issues that had an accelerated shutdown of the old hardware, the 32-bit hardware, in favor of the 64-bit hardware. But they did announce repeatedly leading up to it, and I think recently, that the goal is to be able to, now that those are shut down, to turn them into dark worlds where transfers can happen again for those people who were just away for the summer, because I know I was away for a little bit. Okay, so we can see item added, item added, item added, and then we stopped caring about the item added, and the timer did not go off after 10 seconds either. So that's awesome. 10 seconds might actually be okay. If I did... yeah, so if we hold off 10 seconds after the plugin first loads, and then pay attention to things coming into the backpack, we can either just see it and then stop, or we'll do one final check through the backpack and then be done either way. How do we test this? Well... this is where we go ahead and throw away, and it hurts me to do this, throw away these subscriber town services. I'm willing to do this because this one is a regular 2-week duration one. It only has 1 day left anyway, so I'll be able to replace it from Wenda over there. So we're going to go ahead and log out of Wenda, and we'll log back in. I guess I should have loaded the plugin first without logging out and in. Mel says, I have one each of Mariner and Prowler, as I have neither of those among my old characters. Awesome. Yeah, that's a good excuse to try something a little different. So many of my main characters, wherever I go, are minstrels, so I could pretty easily try something new with almost any other class. Okay, so what we saw there is that we observed everything coming in, we didn't find it, and then we did one last check of the backpack, and then said it's time to talk to Wenda. And if we unloaded and reloaded this, we could probably see the same thing. Mel says, their old mains were a mini and a lore master. Awesome. I have a strong affinity for the more magic-y style of classes. Sorceress in Diablo 2, Minstrel here, Priest in World of Warcraft, that kind of thing. Tillian wonders, might it be possible that any wait time will result in a filled inventory? I imagine the loading routine to load some character data, then try to load all the plugins, then go to a busy loop, checking inventory, user interaction, etc., until you log out. So the reason I jumped to a full-blown timer instead of just waiting a bit was, I think my first approach to this, middle of the week when I first noticed this, was to do a controls update and just check for, wait a little while. But that's an excellent question. Let's go ahead and just set a timer delay of 1. And give it a try. Federer says, why don't they make a wizard class in LOTRO, I assume? And I think the answer is more of a lore answer than anything. Like, there are certainly classes in Lord of the Rings Online that feel wizardy to me, or maybe more sorcery, depending on your Dungeons and Dragons background as well. I mean, in the canon, in the lore of Lord of the Rings, in the lore of Middle Earth, of course, wizards are a much higher level of creature than what you want players to have access to. Uh, and I think the story goes a lot better when you start out from humble beginnings and you start getting the attention of these movers and shakers of the world, the Aragorns and the Aemers and the whatnots. And you are integrated into the story that way instead of coming down from on high as a supernatural being. So I think the lore masters and the minstrels and their rune keepers and anyone else? Mariners? Yeah, probably not. I think those are a reasonable compromise in that wizards are in Dungeons and Dragons and other source material. Wizards are just magic users, and that's just not a good fit for Lord of the Rings Online. That term especially, wizard. But I hear you, Thrutter, because that is what I am drawn to is ranged magic-y style characters. And in Lord of the Rings, you have a pick of those, definitely. Okay, so we got it's time to talk to Winda. Of course, now we're in the situation where it is time to talk to Winda. So I should have tried this Telerian. Actually, you know what? I can fake this out. We're gonna... we need something in my inventory that there's only one of. Actually, no we don't. Reputation Acceleration Tome. Let's go ahead and... oh, we're only checking that. Yeah, does backpack contain... debug, checking item, and then item get name. Okay. If item then and okay, so checking item, and then we're just going to go ahead and copy this off. Does that not have a bound property? Bound to account. Okay. So what we want to do is come on into strings and change subscriber town services from what it actually should be, and we're just going to fake it out and say, no, we've got it. We definitely have the thing called Writ of Special Passage 1 hour. I don't know why you would think otherwise. Great. So, checking backpack, we found it. Great, let's do the log out, log in from here. Yeah, Tillian says, I was just thinking and I thought any delay relying on ticks, the UI was cycling, will have nearly the same result, just pondering. You may be absolutely correct. I thought I had checked a tick or two, an update cycle or two. It's possible I had done like the very first update frame though, where we weren't quite ready. And if I had just been patient, like, wait, 5 updates, and then, but that's essentially what the timer is doing, right? It's waiting X number of ticks that equates to Y clock time and then do the thing. So we could, if setting that number very low works, I'm fine with that, but I'm also fine just not. Okay. We can see that, yes, apparently the 1 millisecond was sufficient for this. Now, I am a little curious how many ticks that turned out being, though. So, if we call stop, then if we call debug, total ticks, and we're going to go ahead and total ticks equals 0, and update total ticks equals total ticks plus 1. So total ticks 2. Interesting. And if we come in here and instead say that we want this to be 10 milliseconds, what does that look like? Also total ticks 2. All right. What if it's 1 second? All right, total takes 59. That sounds about right because I'm pretty sure my frames per second right now would be around 60. Not sure. There it is. Yep, we can see we're hovering at about 60. It's possible it's stuck at 60. Let's see. Troubleshooting. Yeah. Maximum frame rate's just stuck on 60. So if I were to bump that up to max, and then unload and reload, we can see it was doing about 135 frames per second in that case. Okay. So Tony, I don't know if it is obvious whether or not it's multiple frames happening. Tell you what. Update timer is called on every update. Therefore, timer.callback and stop timer, and we're just commenting out the rest of this for a sec. Boy, that is the wrong language. I've been doing a lot of scheme style coding recently, and different commenting symbol. Okay, total takes 0. I want it to wait 1. I think. Oh, no, because I had commented out the thing that increments it. Okay. Total takes 1. So, it is finding it now. So let's log out and log back in and see if it still finds it after 1 tick. Or if it, 1 millisecond equating to 2 frames was really the key. Because I've seen that in other plugins where they've done a special update handler where they don't do it on the first update. They wait an extra frame or however many because they were addressing an issue that they had seen where the data just wasn't available until you waited some number of frames. And so that was my first concern was, oh, I'm going to have to wait some number of frames. If I'm going to do that, I feel like a timer is a more intuitive way to do that. So we can see it is time to talk to Wenda, we say, even though the thing that we're looking for is here. Oh, and then after that, okay. So we got the 2 ticks, and then stuff was added, so that restarted the timer. Oh, that's interesting, though. So that would suggest that if something's added, then start the timer and check for Cybertown services. If it is, then that. Do we have a hide window? Alright, function hide window. Reminder window, set visible, false. I don't necessarily like that actually. I'm gonna not go down that route. But so I think what we've seen is that if you don't have enough ticks after the plugin is loaded, then you're not going to properly see the state of inventory. So I think having a reasonably short amount of time is fine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I don't think I actually need the total ticks. I think that was interesting though. Helper function to make a timer. Okay, so that's probably fine. And then back in main, 1 second. What I've noticed, and this is true for when I've been debugging D-Tracker stuff as well, is that if you start a timer from when the plugin is first loaded to when your character kind of comes out of the loading screen, there's a non-zero number of seconds in there where your plugin is loading behind the scenes. And so I think we saw that before when we logged off and logged back on. I've set a 5-second timer, and I'm guessing that it will be fully elapsed by the time we are properly logged in. Sorry about that. I've been, there's something up my nose and I haven't been sleeping as well as I would like to be, so stuff's just happening. Okay, so what we saw was that this was already populated by the time we logged in. And so even if we set it to 5 seconds and that 5 seconds is restarted every time something is added, until the point that we find the thing that we're looking for, I don't think that's going to actually be noticeable to the user. I think when they log in, that window is essentially going to be there. And I wonder if it's useful to configure this. I find it most useful that I log in and the thing is right there, so it immediately hijacks whatever I was thinking about doing, and I go to window. Like if I waited 10 seconds after I started running and then it popped up time to see window, I wonder if I would like that less. I think I would like that less. I wonder if anyone else wouldn't like that less. I don't know. But that would be something that could be configured is if there was a reason to it, if anyone requested it, that could be something that could be configured in the options, saved in the save file, have a reasonable default, and then be user configurable. What's going on? You say you don't know what it is, but I think you do know what it is. Okay, you found it. Good. Okay, so now to test that this is actually working, we're going to go ahead and get the actual name back. And so if we unload and reload, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's time to talk to window. We just checked everything. We didn't find it. And then if we log out and log back in, again, I think we're going to see this just as we come in. Yeah, as Liam was pointing out in chat, whether or not 1 second or 5 seconds or 10 seconds, whether or not these are way too long and you could do it with 1 frame or 2 frame or 3 frames, the point is to be reliably correct, to where it works 99.9% of the time, maybe even 100% of the time if we're lucky. And so erring on the side of waiting an extra second or two, especially during load-in, because again, I think... Okay, so there was like a 2-second pause there. Wasn't the full 5 seconds that we requested. And so I think that's perfectly reasonable. Like, I haven't even started doing anything. It's time to talk to window. Great. I think 5 seconds is where I'm going to land on for right now. So, if we talk to window, does it go away correctly?
Could I speak with you a moment?
So,
Greetings, friend.
I'm going to go ahead and refresh and get rid of that. I have this thing. So we'll go ahead and put it where it's supposed to be. So if I load the plugin normally, I expect nothing, no window. 5. Okay, it checked, it found, it's done. And then if I log out and log back in, I'm expecting it'll be auto-detected with no problem. And this should suppress the issue I was having, which was I kept logging on to characters, and it'd be, you need to talk to window. And I'd be like, No, I don't. So it was reliably false positiving the situation. Uh, and so at least it was reliably reproducible. That made it a lot easier to test. If it was only happened one out of every 10 times out of every 20, that's way more infuriating. Okay, we can see it found it during the items added, killed items added, and killed the timer. So perfect. And I the items added thing isn't actually necessary. We could just wait X number of seconds, but I do think we can pay attention to the order that they come in at. I don't know if there isn't any sort of ordering likelihood, like the older it is, the sooner it comes up, or anything like that. But this is an order, like if you think of big O notation, this is an order n. We're going to have this callback happen once for each item added, which is going to be strictly equal to or less than the number of spaces in your inventory. In this case, a lot less, 15 instead of 135. So we're going to be called for each one of these. We can check and say yes, no, whatever. As opposed to if we only check the backpack, then for each of the 135 spaces, we need to check, is there an item there, and if so, does the name match? That's also order n. But while it's on the same order, there is potentially a lot more empty spaces that you have to go through in order to find a thing that is not empty. And we're only showing the spaces that actually had something in here. If we were to show the if we were to also show the empty spaces, what would that look like? Okay, if item then else debug space I is empty. 3, 4, 5. So we can see we had to check a bunch of empty spaces. Nope, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. Lots more empty spaces. That wasn't it. Oh, that was it. And then we stopped. So by not showing all the empty spaces that we're doing at least a minimal amount, we're calling get item on it, and then we're checking to see if there was something there. Not a huge amount of effort, but we are masking that by not including those false positives, because otherwise it just jams up the chat window with unnecessary information. So I like the checking it as they're added in, but I could see doing it either way. I think either one of these works for it, and I'm just going to leave it because it's in there and it's working. So let's come on in to our source control and figure out what did we actually do today. So we can see there's some debug statements. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that debug statement. And, right, we're going to get rid of the checking the... In fact, let's just find all the debugs. Debug. No more there. Any more anyway? Nope. Okay. That suggests that if we load this back up, we're not going to see any text here. Might be nice to have a little bit of text just to show that it did something. So, strings. Chat affirmative equals, and then chat negative equals, and that should probably be standard out. But it's going into the chat window, so it could be either way. Okay, and what we want is a basic message. So fact, we could just use the window text for negative. And then for the rest of it, let's do a basic Google Translate. Okay, it is not the time to talk to Winda. Okay, and then French. There we go. Okay, so that just gives us something that we can spit out with yes or no. Do we know? Let's have a global variable. Subscribe when the time equals true. And then when the time equals false. And then check for subscriber buffs, handle subscriber buffs. When the time equals false. So after we're done with the delayed stuff, the timer stuff, else, when the time equals false. So we found the thing here. Okay, so in all of those cases, we're done, and then we can go ahead and say if when the time, then else. And then we want to do turbine.shell.writeLine. And we probably want to use some sort of brief color coding for those people who find that useful. And I don't remember how to do that. So let's go ahead and pull up some general functions of dchecker. And then writeLine. Ah, there we go. The RGB tag. Great. So we're going to go ahead and borrow that. And then the message is going to be in lang, and this is going to be in, it's just going to be the window text, really. Client language. And then the other is going to be not the window text, but the affirmative. I don't think affirmative is great. Standard out. Not time. Just call it not time. Okay, so if we go ahead and pull this up, we see it is not time to talk to Wenda. If we go ahead and set this to 13 days, 23 hours, 55 minutes. We can see it is time to talk to Wenda. And in chat, it is not time to talk to Wenda. So we need to be a little bit more thoughtful about Wenda time. Is this useful? I don't know. It's almost overkill for what we're trying to do. Also, I was in the middle of doing commits here. Okay. I think this is a little overkill for what we're trying to do, but I think it could be interesting to do. So we're gonna undo that for right now. Actually, hang on. One at a time. We're gonna come back to that later. Or possibly never. Okay, so what else do we have? In our strings, we don't need to commit that. We don't need to commit that yet. Timer. Added a timer to wait until the backpack items are loaded. Oh, no. This is adding a timer. We'll just go ahead and add a timer. Okay, main is backpack. Town services item. Okay, yep. Is item equals that and that? Yep, that's fine. I forgot the right lines. Right line. Right line. Okay, that's gonna be better. Alright, so check for subscriber time services. If not that, then show window return end. And then end. I don't like how it's showing me that. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little edit here. So we're going to get rid of the window time. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. And get rid of that. Okay, and then undo all of that and hold it in memory there. Okay, including the timer, great. That changed, great. Check for subscriber, a little comment. That is awesome. We have the timer. Item, is it the item? If it is, stop and then kill this callback. Otherwise reset. Okay, oh, that's great. And then undo the check there. Okay. Yeah, I would say all of that is great. Use the new timer to make sure the backpack is loaded before using it. More or less. Okay, so standard output for not time. Go back to that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and save, revert that, and then this can be unreverted, and then here's all the window time stuff that we were thinking about. Okay. Now what we can see is we've culled out all of the debug text. So even though that 5-second timer should have run to completion, we don't see anything. And that's where I think a little bit of a thing, just to show you that it worked, is nice. So I think what we need is a 3-state system. Yes, no, file not found. So we need window time equals nil. So any place where we would determine that things are good. Okay, we found a window, so window time equals false. Or we did not find the thing, so window is definitely going to be shown. Window time equals true. Now, because if we didn't find the effect, if not window time, then, because if window time is defined, then we've already set it to something. And so we were definitively setting it to something. Okay. So, window time. So we found it, no need to look. Window time equals false. Awesome. And we don't need to set it here at all. Okay. Oh, anytime we show the window, we just should have set window time equals true. That would simplify this a lot. That's why we have this function. Okay, window time equals true. Yep, handled by the show window. I think this is too simple. Item found equals false. Effect found equals false. So this is item found equals true. This is the backpack. Item found equals true. Okay, and then any show window. Is effect found equals false. Or it's there, but it's not. There's not enough time for it. So, what we really need is, if not effect found, or not item found, then let's see if this is a good logic. Well, for one thing, it doesn't even compile. So, 160. Why did you delete a random character? Okay, it's time to talk to window, but why is it time to talk to window? show debug output equals true. And then on our functions, which I should have been doing this for a while, let's go ahead and say debug if show debug output, then that end. And then it can be helpful just to have like an info function that always shows up. So info text. And then that one always shows up, unlike the debug. Okay. So, show window. Debug. Backpack. Does not contain subscriber town services. Showing window. Alright. Debug. Character is missing a subscriber. Buffs effect. Okay. We have a show window here. Then character has the subscriber. Oh, right. Buffs effect, but not enough time remains. And I think that's actually what we're talking about here. Yep, not enough time remains. And you know what? I liked that color that I was doing in the other file. Yeah, debug and info. So debug message. And then this, that, great. Okay. Show window. Show window. And then stop timer. Found a subscriber town services in subscriber town services was added to the backpack. Debug. Subscriber town services was found in the backpack. Okay, and then effect found starts out as false. When is it set to true? Okay, effect found equals true. Character has the subscriber buffs effect. Window won't be shown. Effect will not cause window to be shown. Something like that. Okay, so character has a subscriber buffs effect, but not enough time remains. Okay. Let's go ahead and reset this to that. Okay, character has it. Effect will not cause the window to be shown. Okay. It is not time to talk to window. Awesome. What if we did want... Oh, it is time to talk to window. It is not time to talk to window. Okay. If the thing in our inventory is not right, it is not time to talk to window. Why isn't it time to talk to window? Oh, because I actually had that too. Backpack does not contain subscriber time and services showing window. Okay, but we didn't actually say it is time to talk to window. So what's up with that? And item found. What's the state of these things? Backpack does not contain this. We're not even getting there. Okay. Yeah, because there's a return statement here. I can't do what I'm trying to do. What's wrong with me? Let's try that again. There. Ah, yeah. Well, I do need to actually spell the function correctly. But we're hitting that line of code now, so progress is being made in some way. Okay, backpack does not contain showing window. Effect found false. Item found false. It is time to talk to window. Okay. So if we didn't find the effect, or if we didn't find the item, if we didn't find both of them, that's fine. This triggers. If we found the effect, if we found the item, I don't find the effect. The window shows. These are independent systems. Okay, that's all found. That's all fine. So what we can do is we can set debug output to true, and we can run through these 4 different things, and then I think we're going to be pretty good. So right now we don't have the inventory item, and we can see should it be output? What did I just do? Okay, I meant to set that to false. Okay, so what we want to see is that if we don't have the inventory item, but we do have the effect, it is time to talk to window. Okay. Now, what if we don't have the other way around? So we go ahead and say we don't have that. We do have subscriber in strengthenings. Okay, so we can see it is time to talk to window. And we see that come out in the text chat later. Now, one could argue that we could see this sooner, but I don't think it's strictly necessary. And again, a lot of this 5-second delay should be absorbed by logging out and logging back in anyway. Okay, so what if we don't have both of them? It's time to talk to window. Okay. And if we have both of them? Okay. And in this case, we should expect green. It is not time to talk to window. So that's the sort of the platonic ideal. You log in and you see it is not time. And we're going to go ahead and do that so we can see that a lot of that 5 seconds does get absorbed. Okay, well, I'm definitely feeling my weird sleeping catching up with me. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring the stream to a close in the near future. And then I'm going to sit on this. I'm not going to release this change yet because I didn't see. Oh, well, that's funny. I didn't see. No, no. I'll try this again with just one plugin. I didn't see this problem while I was doing the development. I only saw this problem after the fact as I was switching from one character to another and seeing, oh wait, I'm getting false positives like all the time. That something's weird. Something I didn't take something into account. So what I want to do is basically the same thing. I have these changes. I think they're better. I want to sit on them for a couple more days at least, and then once I've convinced myself that they do in fact solve the problem without creating any new problems, then I'll go ahead and do a release. And I'll post about that over on the forums and over on LOTRO Interface, and probably mention it next week as well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to log in. We're going to see it work. We're going to do last commits of code changes into the repository. And then I think we'll be done. So now's a great time to get any last minute questions, comments, concerns into the chat so we can take a look at them this week. Otherwise, we will see them next week. I didn't disable subscriber town services, did I? No, that should be there. Why didn't I see anything? I mean, I'm not supposed to see something. The timer got canceled. Oh my goodness. Okay. Function set item found value. If value, then item found equals true. Function set effect found. If value, then effect found equals true and end. Function announce window in chat if possible. And then what we're going to do is window announced equals false. If we've already done it, then return end. Otherwise, if item found equal and effect found, then then we'll go ahead and output that. And set window announced equals true. And then if not window announced, then okay, all that to be said, what I was saying is because the output was in that timer if we see the effect that's set to true or false right away. And then later we find the item being added to the inventory. We were stopping the timer, and the timer was the thing that was causing us to write out, you don't need to talk to window. And so what we want to do is, oh, I didn't actually make use of these functions. Okay. So we're going to make use of these functions, and what these functions are going to do is announce window if possible. Rayvon says Hacksaw. Oh, I don't think I get to have that title today with all the mistakes I've made. So what we want to do is anytime we set item found, item found equals, yeah, we're going to search for item found. So item found equals true. Set item found true. Okay, any other place? Set item found equals true. Yeah, set item found a true. Okay, and then we want effect found. So effect found is true. Yep, there. Set effect found to true. And so what we want to do is make sure we don't have any problems there. Okay. Well, that time it actually showed. Apparently something about what I was doing here worked. Okay, so we're going to log back in one more time. And what we should expect to see is that the green window text is announced. And we should only expect to see it once because we are checking that flag. It is not time to talk to window. Great. Okay, hopefully that's not too distracting for people to see, and hopefully it's informative. And then it confirms that the plugin did something. As opposed to no window, you don't know if the plugin did something or if it just didn't work. Okay, so we have one more thing we can test, which is wrong window. We're going to come on into the plugin manager, and in the options, go ahead and say that it's 13 days, 23 hours, and 30 minutes. Oh, I said 50. Whatever, that's fine. It's time to talk to window. Awesome. And so what we are expecting to see is that same message. So I'm going to log back in and verify that. Okay. It's time to talk to window, and then a few seconds later, I didn't get the message. That's frustrating. Show window. Effect found equals false. Effect found was already false. If item found and effect found start out nil, then I think we can go ahead and announce as soon as we can hoist this whole thing. Okay, so if not when announced, yes. We don't need to worry about that because we've already done it in this function. So if that or not that, then this. And when announced is true. Okay. So then in that case, we need to now try to announce anytime we have set these things. Item found just becomes equal to the value. We don't need that anymore. And effect found. And then every time we're setting item found, we do need to use this function. Okay. So it starts out nil. Item found equals true. Oh no, item found equals value. That's going to be very important. Set item found. Okay. And then set effect found. No, just effect found. Okay, so same things. There, set effect is true, and then there we go. Set effect found false. I think in my mind's eye, this works. Okay, so that took the full time because we weren't seeing it coming in to short circuit. That's fine. We could do an initial check when we load, but yeah. The normal path of this is not the developer; it's the average user. So if debug options were on, we could check right away, I suppose. But you do want it to behave similarly for developer and for user. Having special code that only runs on my machine is a great way to mess things up. Okay, it is time to talk to Wenda. It is time to talk to Wenda. Now, if we go ahead and fix that, we should see it is not time to talk to Wenda. And if we log it out and back in, we should see that as well. That was a mistake of mine to put the output within code that was only going to be called on a timer who, if things work correctly, was going to be disabled before it had a chance to run. But as we saw, the transformation that into a more centralized place that would run at any time it was appropriate to run took effort. More effort than I was originally hoping. Alright, it is not time to talk to Wenda. As a Wenda, I feel like that is sad. Okay. So, what we want to do is go look at our source control and see what did we just do and are we happy with it. So, added in better debug functions. So that is this and also this. The show debug output because we're using that in the debug function. Okay, so we've got that. Strings. We do not need this. I'm a little surprised it doesn't have the other change. Did I accidentally commit that? I did commit that. Whoopsie. Oh well. Let's uncommit that. Removed, accidentally committed a string. Okay, and then we can save that again, and it'll be there locally. Great. Okay. So in main, we have added effect found, item found, effect found, and when to announce. We don't need a space between them. They're all conceptually doing the same thing here. And, you know, in a class-based environment, I would probably want a class that wraps up all these ideas together, maybe. But I mostly just hate seeing global variables like this, but it solves the problem very quickly in such a small, isolated environment like this. Set item found, set effect found, announce when to edge out if possible. We'll debug something and then we'll announce to everyone one way or the other. Okay, great. Sounds great. Oh, actually, added various debug outputs for testing. We're going to go ahead and say debug, 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 debug. Yes. Debug. And else. Debug. Removed extra return statement. Okay, and then added added standard output announcing the window state. Okay, so set item, that set item. We're getting rid of an extra line here. Do we need to? I don't think we do. Set item, set effect, set effect. Oh, I don't like that set effect false is being used in show window actually, because now we're using show window in both of these. So show window. Set item found false. Okay. So show window. Set effect found false. Show window. Set effect found false. All right, so show item found false. So effect. Yeah, that was a mistake. Now you could have two different set windows or show windows, or you could have a parameter going to show window that tells us which to do. And I kind of would prefer that, but designing a good parameter for that is its own challenge that I'm not up to right now. Okay, it's not time to talk to window. Very good. Coming back in, added standard output announcing the window state. Great. Set item as an effect. All of that is good. Set item found false or true. Set item found true. Set effect found false. Set effect false. Set effect true. That sounds great. We're going to push those out. Okay, like I said, I'm going to sit on those changes for the next couple of days, maybe the next week, and make sure I didn't miss something else as I did for what has just turned into 2 hours of effort. So you're not going to see those changes go out right away, but the plugin is out there and will tell you if this effect is either gone or has less time than the threshold on it. And the default is 1 day. So out of the 14 days, if you have less than 1 day on it, it'll be an announcement. Obviously, you could change that to 8 hours, 2 hours, whatever your preference is. But the check only happens when the plugin first loads, which is by default when you log into your character. So I would warn against setting it below 1 day by too much, because if you have a long session, for instance, on Saturdays, we will often play for 4 or more hours with kinship members and then do stuff on our own. So 6 or 8 hours could pass conceivably while still being logged into those same characters. That's a bit of a rarity. Usually it's closer to 4 hours than 8 hours. But if we took this down to only 6 hours, there are some days where we would be fine at the beginning when the plugin loads, and by the end of it, our buff would have expired. When this started out as a 2-day buff, I could definitely understand when to bring that down. But as it stands, 1 day out of 14, getting 13 days unbothered, and then the 14th day you're told, I think that works pretty well for my use cases. Okay, I don't see any other comments going into chat that we haven't addressed. So, I think that is everything we are going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you here next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.